made it through the tunnel into Italy. Stopped off at a really nice spot for some pasta and pizza, and now we're headed up to Bellagio. This is the road if you're coming up from at least an hour deal from Milan to Bellagio. So to the right is Lake Como, so this is kind of the bottom of Lake Como. And then I guess this road's going to get better as we go up. Maybe it won't. I have no idea. Here comes a big old camper, so it's got to be relatively pretty good, you would think. So I'm going to give him some wide room and let him do what he needs to do so our car doesn't get scratched up. So with that said, you can kind of look out there to Bellagio, and that's the way that we're headed. Headed through Lake Como. Just a really pretty area for sure. Roads remind me of England when we were driving in Cornwall, St. Ives area. Very narrow, very turny, very whatever, turny is a good word to use. I don't know what better word, curvy maybe. But at the end of the day, they are definitely a road that you want to be sober on for sure. So we'll check you on the other side. Cheers. Well, guys, we're coming into Bellagio, and this has been a really cool road to drive on for sure. We're about 1.5 miles from our destination coming up, and it's a neat little town so far. I am thinking the scenery is going to be absolutely spectacular. See you at the hotel. Well, guys, we're still on the road, and check this out. We are like in the middle of literally Bellagio, I think, making our way to the hotel. So we have a ton of people around us. It's not so bad at the second, but it was a lot of people up above us for sure. Quite honestly, we were wondering whether or not we should even go down this road. Dinner was, well, really lunch, I guess. It's probably about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, 3:45 in the afternoon. Was spectacular. We have had a wonderful time. I want to start the thing off by saying, first of all, as you guys know that we're Texas Longhorn fans, and wherever we travel, we try to wear either Astros gear or Longhorns gear for sure. And not because of the fact that we're proud of the team, although we are. It's really to start a conversation. You would be surprised how many people stop me while I'm traveling, whether it be in Norway, whether it be in Spain, whether it be in London, whether it be here in Torrena, on Lake Como, about, oh gosh, where are you from? Or is that Texas Longhorns? Or Hook 'em, or Go OU, or Gig 'em, or whatever. It's amazing the thing that comes out of it. It's really cool how that happens. And actually, my father told me about that a while back, and I said, that's a great idea to do things about your home team. So wherever we go, I always try to bring Longhorn gear for sure. So if you're wondering why I'm wearing a Longhorn shirt, trust me, it creates conversation for sure. And if you're out and about, particularly in other parts of the world, it's a really neat thing to represent your team, whatever your team might be, whether it's Longhorns or whomever. So going back to the meal, this was probably one of the best meals that I've had here in Italy on our trip. I just got simple spaghetti pomodoro. It was just outstanding. The bread was fantastic. Obviously the beers we'll talk about in a minute, but the service was great. We have this whole place to ourselves. It's funny how you can kind of time your meals to where there's just not a lot of people around here that would be interfering or whatnot. I just feel like we have the entire place to ourselves, which is nice. The day has been really interesting. We actually, a couple of days ago when we were in Lyon, we were at a movie cinema type museum, and there was this young lady behind us. We were kind of going through, and she was obviously American. She heard us talk, and she said, "Hey, where are you from?" We said, "Texas." She was from Georgia, and so we started talking, and all of a sudden it was like she kind of hung around us as we went through this museum.
she asked where we were going. We, of course, said Lake Como, and she said, oh, gosh, my husband and I are going to Lake Como, too. And we said, okay, cool, that's going to be neat. And so we were coming back from Bellagio. No, we were coming to Bellagio from from Verena, I believe, last night. And we ran into them. And so on the boat, totally happenstance. It was just crazy how that happened. And matter of fact, we weren't even going to get on the boat, and we ended up getting on the boat to come back to Bellagio. And there they were. And she recognized my UT outfit, and she recognized my hat, and she said, hey, I saw you in Leon. So it was really weird how that all happens. And then what was weird also, last night we were walking around in the town of Bellagio where we're staying. And it was, by about, FYI, pro tip, around 7:30 p.m., at least on the weeknights, it gets really slow, and I think that's kind of the last boats that go back and forth between these towns. And so we were kind of walking around, getting a little bit of gelato, and we walked into this old store, which we'll show you pictures of, and started talking with this gentleman that was behind the counter. And he started off kind of like, kind of sad, kind of not grumpy, but kind of wanted to get the day going, get the day finished, I guess, because it was nighttime. It was probably 8 o'clock at night. And we started talking to him, and we noticed there was a well in the store, and it was obviously an old well. And so we looked at the well, and we went, oh, that's kind of interesting. So he started to open up, and he started to talk about his store. Well, come to find out that this store, it's basically a wood crafting store to begin with, is the oldest store in Bellagio. It started in 1829, and his grandfather started the store. His grandfather came up from Milan, which is about an hour up from here, started the store. He had a son, which of course is his dad, and then the son had 2 kids, him and his brother. His brother lives in Como along with some of his family, which is about probably, I'd guess, a 35-40 minute boat ride from Bellagio. And so it was interesting to talk to him, and he really opened up as far as cheerfulness and talking to us and just explaining about what Bellagio used to be like before tourism. And his parents had the foresight, or his granddad actually had the foresight to buy this building. It's basically an apartment. And he bought the building, and then he opened, of course, like you see in Europe most of the time, you see a store at the base of the building, which they call floor 0. And so they opened this wood crafting shop, and so it was really neat to see how they started this wood crafting that has now become into a more or less I don't want to say it's a tourist shop, because it's really not. It's a wood carving higher end shop in Bellagio, that higher end, not so much expensive end, but so much like you're not going to see knickknacks, you're not going to see magnets, and you're not going to see t-shirts and that kind of thing. So it was really neat to see. So that's really a nice thing to sit there, and we ended up talking to him for, probably, 25, 30 minutes at least, maybe even longer. And of course, I was wearing a UT shirt last night, a UT t-shirt, and there was a lady there from Dallas, which is a small world, and she was a horn frog. So it was kind of cool to, again, get up the conversation. So we chatted for a while and then went from there. So from that standpoint, so we kind of walked around, and we started this morning, and we ran into Francisco. So let me tell you about Francisco. Francisco reminds me of the movie Elf.
Francisco, that's fun to say. Francisco.
So we ran into Francisco. And Francisco was really kind of grumpy, right? Just kind of grumpy. And we ran into him. His boss apparently put him into a bad mood this morning. He came to work, and his boss says, well, aren't you going to tell me hello? And Francisco was like, well, okay. I thought you were going to tell me hello. And so that kind of started the morning off, from what we can tell, of course, because we weren't there, poorly. Let's just leave it at that. So we went into Francisco. This was into a villa here in Verena, which was recommended to us, by the way, by a nice Oriental lady that was sitting by me last night on the ferry back to Bellagio. And she said, hey, you must go to these gardens, which were outstanding. We'll show you some pictures of that. So Francisco, we walked in and he was grumpy and, take your ticket, go do this, go do that, go do this. And so we walked off and, about 5 or 10 minutes later, Francisco walks up to us and asks us some more questions. And, he asked where we were from. And of course I pointed to my shirt, Texas and all that good stuff. And I think that kind of changed his mood a little bit. I think he started to really feel open and, he wanted to talk to people. And, sometimes I think when you travel and you kind of take these people might think we're taking them for granted. But quite the contrary, when we travel, or when we all travel, or at least coming from the States, at least for me, it's nice to talk to people about where they're from and what do they do and how do they do it and how long have they lived here. Well, come to find out, Francisco.
Francisco?
Don't you love the name Francisco? I mean, that's just a nice name.
Francisco?
Anyway, Francisco, he is from Verena, where we are, and he was born here. He's 31 years old. He has a master's in history. And it's amazing when you travel to Europe and you go on these tours, and it wasn't even really a tour, it was more of just an impromptu tour. Francisco kind of showed us the ropes about this big villa. And the villa wasn't huge, it was probably 8,000 or 9,000. The ceilings, the fireplaces, everything. And he spent probably a solid 40 minutes with us. It was really, really neat to do. I don't think he really meant to do that, to be honest with you. I think that he just was looking for something to do and looking for someone to talk to. That was kind and nice. Not that we're kind and nice, but I think that he was looking for somebody that was just going to be kind to him. So we parted ways and walked in the villa and walked in the gardens, and then as we saw him, we said, "Goodbye, Francisco." He was goodbye. He was very polite and very sweet, and it was very nice. It was really, really good. So throughout this entire trip, I mean, I've got a poor interview with Wendell, which that was in the back of a pub, so I apologize already about the lighting and sound and all that good stuff. The audio was pretty poor, but I couldn't imagine even running into somebody like that, Wendell, and you'll see that in another episode. But you'll also remember that we ran into Steve yesterday. We were in a town outside of Bellagio. We took the ferry again, and he was walking. Crazy how this stuff works, right? So he was walking, and the only reason we stopped is because of his dog. We had no clue who this person was, and he was walking. He was coming this way. We were going that way, so we were coming like this, and we were looking for somewhere to eat. He was going this way. And so his dog was like on this major street. In America, this would never happen. I don't understand how this happens here. I don't know if dogs are smarter here. I have no idea. But with that said, he was walking with his dog, and his dog was on the little sidewalk. By the way, the sidewalks are probably only about this big, which is about 2 feet. Off the leash, FYI. And so his dog was walking down this little sidewalk. He was following him, the gentleman, and we stopped, and Steve was his name. We stopped and we spoke to him and said, hey, that's a beautiful dog. And he said, yeah, I live here, and he lives here in this town. And he starts talking about the town and all the regulations that he deals with. He's actually from Great Britain, and his wife is Italian. Originally, by the way, from Ireland, which is in itself even weird, but anyway. So he had a Killarney shirt on, which we've been to Killarney before, and so we started talking about Killarney, and then he said, "Where are you going?" And we said, "We're going to eat." He says, "Oh, don't go that way. That's all residential." And he said, "Follow me. I'll take you to a good restaurant." And I said, "Okay, great." So we wanted to go somewhere nice and local. So we had a great salad. We had a great meal right by the water. It was absolutely fantastic. It was funny. We just ran into the guy, and he was super nice. He met his wife. His brother-in-law was there, and his wife's brother actually lives in Denver, is flying in. He's an airline pilot. He's from United. And he was flying into Milan, and he was going to meet them up for the weekend. Today is Wednesday. So with all that said, it was a really interesting time, and it was a really interesting event. Going back to the beer, because I know what this channel is for. So the beer itself, first of all, we just stopped off in this restaurant, And we literally just sat down, and I saw the beer on the menu, and I said, okay, great, let's just try it. So we tried this one first, as you know, the blonde, and it was absolutely outstanding. The best thing I can tell you about the beer is it looks like it's family ran, like I said, and they are really passionate about what they're doing for sure. Obviously we're in Italy, which is the home of the wine, and we've had some good wine too, but this beer is really, really, really good. We tried, of course, we drank the blonde, and when the meal came, we tried the red, the rouge, and it is outstanding as well. It's a little bit higher ABV. It's probably 7.2%. Very low IBUs, probably, I would guess 21 or 22, roughly thereabouts. I ordered the pasta pomodoro, like I said. It went extremely well with that. They serve it in a proper glass, which is fantastic. And they're not rushing you here. So if you travel, you sit down, it's an event. It's something that you just enjoy. You don't do anything different. You just sit and enjoy. You've got the table. It's not a big deal. They're not trying to turn tables or anything like that. So it's been extremely relaxing afternoon. So from here, we're headed over to Menaggio, which is across the lake via ferry, of course, and then back to Bellagio tomorrow. And then from there, we head down to Tuscany and kind of check out Tuscany for a little while, up to Florence, and then head on home from Rome. So we're really looking forward to sharing these adventures with you. We appreciate you listening, subscribing, telling your friends. We could use all the help we get. We're not professional YouTubers. We're just two normal people that are talking about things that we really enjoy. So cheers to you, and we'll see you on the other side.